Hey everybody, what's going on? So in this section, we're going to get into one of the most important aspects when it comes to becoming a better seller, and that's going to be pain. Now, to remind you again, one of the crucial rules when it comes to sales is that people will buy emotionally and they'll justify that decision logically. Meaning, as sellers, we really have to learn how to appeal to someone's emotion, not just tell them the features and benefits, but really get them emotionally involved and motivated to actually make an action. Now, to get people emotionally involved, what you may not know is that the strongest emotion to make someone take an action is actually pain. Pain is the most powerful emotion that you can use. For example, let's say you needed to survive, meaning you need shelter, water, and food, right? How hard would you work in order to survive? And my guess is you would probably work really hard to make sure that you continue to live, right? And so the pain would be dying. And to avoid that pain, you would do anything to make sure that you can continue living. The second strongest emotion is actually pleasure. But however, the most important one that we want to really utilize and focus on is pain. Now, here are three different levels of pain, right? So there's going to be latent pain, realized pain, and extreme pain. And what that means is that a latent pain is essentially a pain that people have, but they don't know they have it, right? It's unconscious and they're experiencing it. And if they have a latent pain, it's up to you as a seller to make them realize that they do have a pain. And that's when it goes to realized pain. And so a realized pain is essentially when a prospect, the person you're talking to, realizes that they actually have a problem. And finally, you want to stir that realized pain and turn it into an extreme pain, meaning you want to make their little problem that didn't seem like a problem become a extreme painful problem. And what you want to do from there is you want to position your product, service, solution, or idea, or whatever it is, as the solution to that person's pain. Meaning, this is how you get people to buy emotionally versus you trying to shove something down someone's throat. Because by just bringing up their pains, making it hurt a lot more, people are more likely to purchase a solution because they want that pain to go away. In most cultures, pain has a negative association, but when we use it in sales, it's neither positive or negative. It's something that's neutral. It's just something that people experience, and it's an emotion that will get people to move. You're not necessarily a bad person for pointing out someone's problem. If you can actually point out their problem, make them realize that they even have a problem, and then give them a solution to it, you're actually adding a lot of value to this person's life, even though in the beginning they may not have realized this at all. Now, the best salespeople are not the ones who are going to be the smoothest talkers or have the loudest voices. This is not where you want to gravitate. The best salespeople and the ones that I've seen that have been most effective are actually the ones that are the best listeners and have the highest level of empathy, meaning they can see themselves in the prospect's shoes and really see it from their perspective and understand their prospect on an emotional level. And the best way to uncover pain in general is to ask questions. So questions are going to be one of the most powerful tools that you can use in your sales arsenal because it makes people feel like you're listening. It builds that empathy and connection, and it really just builds that rapport and trust so that people will be ready to buy whatever it is you have in the future. Now, when it comes to using questions are tactics, right? Practical things that you can actually do and say, but you got to pay attention to the style and how you ask your questions, because style, your physical presentation, and tonality are incredibly important on first impression, and later on it's about substance. So remember, even though you're asking a high quality question, you got to say it in a high quality way to make sure that message is communicated to the other party. Now, when it comes to pain and questions, you understand that that's extremely critical when it comes to becoming great at sales. We're going to use something called the pain pyramid, and it's going to help you structure your questions so you know exactly which question to ask during the sales cycle. So as you can see here, it's a reverse pyramid where at the top, you're going to have surface level questions. The middle, you're going to have business questions. And lastly, in the bottom, you're going to have personal questions. So essentially, you want to think of it like a funnel, where in the beginning, when you meet someone, you're going to ask them some easy, logical questions that anybody can ask, and you're not going to offend anybody. Nobody's going to think you're rude. And as you get to know the person a little bit more and you start building that rapport, what's going to happen is you can ask more business related questions about what challenges are affecting their business, what goals do they want to achieve, what challenges are blocking them from their goals, things like that. And once you get down to those business questions, the next level is asking questions questions that really tap into that person's psychology, and you really want to understand emotionally where your prospect stands. So these questions are typically a little more harder, they're emotional, and they really affect that person's individual life. It's not just their business, but also their personal life. So when you get into that state where you're asking these personal questions and really understanding from a perspective of your customer and how it affects their life when they go home, how much money they're going to make, how is their boss going to look at them from that point on, all these things are things you need to know to become an effective seller. So now that you understand from a high level perspective how the pain pyramid works from surface, business, and personal, we're going to dive deeper into each pillar so that you get an understanding of what these questions really mean and how you can use them for your sale. Another note before we do that is that it typically takes around 3 questions before you actually get to someone's pain. So that means you got to ask a couple surface questions, couple business questions, and then they're going to get down to the painful personal questions that typically they don't usually answer to strangers, but because you build that rapport, they don't see you as a stranger, they see you as someone that they can trust. So once you get that pulse of pain, that pulse of emotion that somebody is hurting, that is where you want to go deep, because a lot of times human psychology is that we love to talk about our problems, and the more someone is able to talk about their personal problems, the more information you have and you can use to position your product or service as the solution to their problem. And at this point of the conversation, whether you're talking to someone over the phone or you're talking to them in person, you're not necessarily talking about yourself, or you're not saying why they should buy your product or service, and you're not pitching anything. All you are doing is building rapport, asking these questions, understanding your customer more to see whether or not they should buy your product or service. And that's just code for seeing if there's a fit. And then from there, you're going to be able to pitch later. But at this point, you should only be asking questions and listening. And really, you're simply just guiding the conversation with these pain questions using the pain pyramid, listening, building rapport with the other person. And you'll notice that a lot of the questions that I'm going to give you some examples of, they're going to be open-ended questions. And when I mean open-ended, it means that they're questions that don't solicit a yes/no answer where someone can say yes and then the conversation stops. They're high-quality questions that get the prospect to really think about their situation and really dig deep on what they really want in life. And once you understand these emotions, that's when your selling ability is going to increase. So let's start things off with the pain pyramid surface level question. So I'm just going to run through the examples and you'll kind of see how they're going to be open-ended, very easy to ask, and very easy for a prospect to answer. In the beginning, you could say something like, what got you interested in this call? And they'll say, it seems like you could help me, blah, 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 right? Can you be a little more specific with that? What exactly do you mean by that? Can you give me an example? How long has that been a challenge? Have you tried anything to fix this? So these are all questions that obviously in the beginning, you're asking really general questions like, so what got you interested in the call? What do you want out of this conversation? Things like that. And then whatever they answer you with, you want to ask more questions as a response to that answer. So they tell you more and more and more until you get to the next phase, which is the business level portion of the conversation. And how you're going to get more deeper is you ask things like, how long has this been a challenge? Have you tried anything to fix this? As you can see here, these are trigger questions where if you ask somebody, have you tried anything to fix this? They might say, yeah, we tried this and that, nothing works, and blah, 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 right? And so now you're getting real emotion out of the person. And once you sense that hint of emotion, that's where you want to go. If somebody tells you that it didn't work because XYZ, you say, well, have you given up on trying? Or, what do you think you can do differently? You can ask questions like that to dive deeper into the business pains. And then from there, the business pains can go like, why do you think that didn't work? Has anyone tried to do something about this? If you were to take a guess, how much is this costing you? Are you committed to fixing this? If you do nothing, what happens? Right? So these are questions that dive a little more deeper into the business, right? What are the problems this person's business is facing? So they have a problem because you ask a surface question to identify the problem. And then from there, you're saying like, well, why didn't it work? How come we're on this call? Like, do you want to fix this? What happens if you do nothing, right? And so all pain starts to come because let's say you ask the question, if you do nothing, what happens? And then they're going to say, well, we're going to continue to lose $10,000 a month. And that's pretty painful, right? And so you're getting deeper into those business problems, right? And so far, it's not necessarily affecting them personally. It's affecting their business, right? Which is like this other entity. But you want to get one more level deeper into how these business problems personally affect their lives. So the personal pain questions can be, how does that make you feel, right? That one's one of my favorites where it's really subtle, but it elicits their emotion. And if they might say angry, frustrated. Maybe they hate whoever did a bad job when they try to hire somebody else, right? This is when you're getting their pain. How does this directly affect you? Are you ready to give up? How do you think I might be able to help? Sounds like a major issue. Why hasn't anyone taken care of this? So these are all questions that really makes the person feel like that's what I was thinking. That's exactly how I feel. If I say the question sounds like a major issue, why hasn't anyone taken care of this? They might be thinking, that's exactly what I'm thinking. How come nobody's taking care of this? Why do I have, and then they might say like, sometimes if you want to get the job done, you got to do it yourself, right? Some stuff like that. So you're really just asking them emotionally, how do they feel? Frustrated, angry, sad, mad? Where do they want to go? Do they want to be more happier in life? Do they want to make more money? What are these personal pains that this person is experiencing? And so pretty much at this point in the conversation, you're really getting to build rapport with the other person, because the more someone is able to share these emotions with you, naturally they're going to trust you a lot more, even though you're a salesperson. And this is exactly where you want to be, where people are telling you things that they don't even tell their friends, but because you learned how to build rapport and ask smart questions, and then ask more questions and build empathy and learn more about this person, they're going to tell you everything you need to know when it comes to their problems, and then it's going to give you so much more information when it's time to solve them. So with that said, that's everything we have to cover when it comes to pain. It is one of the most important sections in the entire program, so really pay attention to how you are going to use these questions and how you're going to bring someone down your funnel of the pain pyramid. And with that said, I'm going to see you guys in the next lesson.